Hello, welcome to this recording. I'm going to talk about social sustainability in the context of district heating. It has been a project funded by the IEA DHC, and we have been looking into a new site in Canada. So first, we're going to discuss why it's important to study this topic. Then I will explain the process of research, first results and conclusions. So why is this an interesting topic? Well, we see when we look into mature district energy markets that there seems to be a gap in the value chains of district energy companies. There is a lot of focus on economic sustainability and on environmental sustainability, but when it comes to social dimensions, it's limited. It can be limited to, for example, the well-being of the employees, to have fair working conditions, that kind of thing. But it can also be things like sponsoring a local sports team or similar. There is not very much other information on how you could anchor your company, for example, to the society and generate a win-win to the local landscape. So that is why we decided to study this topic, and also to understand if the social dimension can help to improve the competitiveness of district energy. We also see that competition on the heat market is fierce. Gas is still very cheap in many parts of the world. For example, this is the case in Canada, the case that we have studied. And we also see that heat pumps can be installed very fast and that there is no locked-in effect with them. So there is also this competition aspect with natural monopolies to consider. So the idea was then, in conclusion, to identify if you can become more competitive by capitalizing on the social values in the district energy context. I mentioned that we have studied a case in Burnaby, in Canada. It is located in Burnaby, and it is not yet in operation, but the plan is to start in 2027. And the idea is to make use of waste from waste combustion in the municipality or the area of Metro Vancouver, where the municipality of Burnaby is part, and use this waste heat to provide energy for large parts of the city. So they have a very good economic context for this setup and a very good environmental context for the setup. But a little bit might be lacking on social dimensions. And this is why we chose this case study to further understand what could be done and also help them on the way to establish social values. Okay, so this is why we chose to study social sustainability. And how did we go about it? The process of research. We started with making a value chain analysis. We made it for two mature markets of district energy, Sweden and Denmark, and two maturing markets, Belgium and Canada. And we were trying to understand, are there any possibilities for social values in the value chain? And then we did literature screenings. First, we screened business model literature on sustainable business models and socially sustainable business models. And then we identified also that we need to go further into other literature streams. So we looked into social KPIs, social key performance indicators. Based on the value chain analysis and the literature screenings, we made an interview guide. And we were conducting interviews live with a number of stakeholders in Burnaby in October 2024. And in order to analyze all of this and understand the commercial viability of social values, we used the methodology of the triple-layered business model canvas, where you can look at economics, environmental aspects, and social aspects. So what did we find? What were our results? So condensing the value chain analysis, the literature screenings, and the interviews, we made an interview guide focusing on 7 areas. One was how well the company is supporting the local community. For example, buildings can be used to include people to come in and have a look what's going on. You can have educational purposes, that kind of thing towards the young in society. You can also save indoor space by putting things below ground, and that can be very valuable in a dense urban context. And you can also create jobs. Then we looked into the category of community engagement. So we saw that transparent communication across the value chain can be very important for engagement. And you can also have a positive and negative impact on the local community, for example, construction disturbances or resettlement issues even. And you can have very positive impact if you have partnerships, win-win solutions, co-creation of value, and co-investments. For example, when you make waste heat recovery between an industry and the district energy company. Then we have aesthetics. That means that pipes are not seen, for example, or that you use buildings to signal some kind of value. For example, they can signal a sustainability message. You can have on the facade some kind of information telling how much energy is coming from recovered heat, for example. Or you can have very nice buildings that enhance the cityscape. They can be pictures on them, or they can have glass facades, that kind of thing. Then we come to affordable or stable price, considering if it's important to have a lower price than alternatives, if you can have some kind of impact on the energy poverty aspect, and if stability in price is of a value, that it's not volatile. For example, volatility can be seen in both electricity and gas. And predictability can also be very good for budgeting for large customers. How you use the local heat supply can also be an aspect. If you use less local transports, air pollution is lowered, for example. And if you are engaged with partners locally, you can also strengthen the local economy. And then you can improve the quality of life of the end user. It can be a carefree solution. You don't have to work on your asset in the basement because somebody else does it for you. And you can also get a higher indoor comfort and potentially both heating and cooling. And lastly, the last area of the interview guide was sector coupling, to understand how coupling, for example, district energy and electricity could take the load off the electricity sector, or if you resort to CHP technology, you can generate both electricity and heat, or you can use electricity for your own district heating system. So in sum, these were the areas that we looked into to understand how socially sustainable the system in Burnaby could be. And we found that factors that have the largest impact to provide the social values in Burnaby were job creation, the transparency across the value chain, the signaling buildings, using buildings to promote a value, that you have a cost-competitive heat solution, that you partner up with local stakeholders, and that you have the ability to provide both heating and cooling. So these were the ways that the Burnaby context could add value the most. I should have mentioned earlier that we were not interested in understanding the ESG factors of internal activities for employees, because we were thinking that that is a hygiene factor. So we wanted to understand other social sustainability elements. So we focused beyond the own organization. And when we made a comparison with the electricity provision and the gas provision in Burnaby, we saw that the district heating has the potential to build a very strong and local relationships with stakeholders in the Burnaby area that would be stronger than for both gas and electricity. So the district heating company can be very anchored to the community, which means it's also increasing its cost, its competitive side. We also saw that all the three energy vectors can make decisions to work with social sustainability. Electricity, gas, and district heating can actively reinforce social values, but in the context of Burnaby, we only saw that the district heating company had started to do so. And then we also see that the lower costs can be obtained if you work together with the community. For example, you can make sure that you use the locally available supply from solar panels on the roof for electricity of people in the city, but also from waste heat sources like district energy companies can do. So that's another element of the anchoring. And we also made a checklist. If you want to start harvesting your social sustainability values, what should you do? So first, we think you should review your value chain and understand where there are elements of social values that you could harvest. And then you should look into your ecosystem and see what stakeholders are there and interested in collaborating with you. Maybe you can co-create some values, and maybe you can make joint investments. And then social sustainability needs to become a management matter. It needs to be included in strategy. And then you can even engage in identifying relevant social KPIs to follow up on. And when you do all these things, you also have to think about the transition of your business model in parallel, because do you have new risks? Do you have new opportunities occurring on the side? How can you shift your business to become more apt and competitive in the future? And you should also probably start small. You can identify social values that can generate gain, and then you can start working on them somewhere. For example, for a district heating company, starting to work with local waste heat recovery can be a starting point, and then as you go along, you can increase the role and weight of social sustainability values. So in conclusion then, do district heating companies have the possibility to work with social values and become more cost competitive as a result? The answer is yes. Thank you for listening. Bye.